Hello and welcome. I don't know why I haven't done this in this format before, but we're going to be ranking Gundam OPs today, and I'm really excited because it means I get to go back and watch all the Gundam OPs. This list was made by Imiriri77, so thank you for that. But it has, thankfully, all of the names of the OP, which made this so much easier. Now, it doesn't have most of the movies, because most of the movies don't have OPs, and it doesn't have Thunderbolt, because Thunderbolt doesn't have an OP. But Thunderbolt has an incredible soundtrack, so it has that going for it. But yeah, we're gonna start here with the beginning, and I'm gonna watch all of these, and I'm gonna be ranking them based on the visuals and the music and how they tie in together, how much it hypes you up as an OP or sets the stage for the episode that is to come. And so let's go ahead and just get started. I'm very torn on Tobe Gundam. On the one hand, this is like the premier Gundam opening. It's the first one. It's the one that really sets the stage for every opening to come after it. It is seminal. It is great. It is locked in my mind. I can just hear the da 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 da. Not using the words, of course, so that we don't have to worry about copyright. But I can hear that anytime I think about this opening. I see the whole white base crew turning to the camera and the Gundam standing up. It's a very, very good opening. I don't know that it does a lot to hype up for the episode other than just, hey, it's a fun song. We're having a good time. And the visuals are a little interesting because you don't really get much of the white base in the background. You mostly just get these pastel colors with the crew over top of them. But I'm going to put this strongly in S tier because, again, it does set the stage for everything that is to come. And it's still a really solid opening that I'll listen to whenever I want. It's one that I'll go back and listen to many, many times and have many times. It's in my playlist for Super Robot OPs, even though it's not a Super Robot show, because how much I like the song itself. I just don't think that it's as good as some of the other ones are gonna be, but I do think it's absolutely solid. And S does not stand for solid, but I think it's a solid OP that sets the stage for everything else, and so it deserves to go in S tier. Now, it's important to mention there are actually two versions of this OP for Tokiwo Koete, the first Zeta OP. The version in Japan, the original sub version, is solid. I don't necessarily love the song. There are parts of the song that I find really fun and catchy, and there are parts of the song that just don't really do that much for me. But Believing a Sign of Zeta is really good, right? However, the version we got over here in the West, in the DVD releases, has no lyrics whatsoever and is a very different song. So I'm going to be ranking Tokiwo Koete, the song version, not the version without lyrics. Even though, in a weird way, I think I like the version without lyrics. Like, that song, I think, fits better for the visuals in here. The visuals are incredible, of course. Zeta Gundam, that's always going to be that way. Zeta Gundam's visuals are timeless and, perfect in some ways. There's still a little bit of the pastel colors, especially behind horror at one point, but you get so many great shots of the Zeta, or not the Zeta, sorry, of the Argama, and so many great shots of the Mark II in here. It's a really, really good opening. I don't think it works as well to hype me up for the episode as some of the others, and it spoils so much. Other openings later on do better, but it absolutely shows you, hey, this is what older Kai looks like. This is what older Hayato looks like. This is what older Amuro looks like. And I just don't see the need to spoil all that in the opening. I don't know. But all told, I'm going to put Tokiwo Koete in A, and I feel like that's going to be the most controversial pick on this entire list, but we'll see how everybody feels when we get done. And maybe I'll change my mind by the time we finish the list. The second Zeta OP, however, I think is one of the best OPs in the entire series. It is so incredible. And again, there's a different version of this that we got on the English DVDs. But this OP is so great. It starts off really melancholy, but slowly builds, has little bits of hope in there while still selling that theme that Zeta has of, hey, sometimes life sucks. I love this theme song. The cuts in during this of, hey, the only time that we have the pastels now are when somebody's feeling a strong emotion, like 4 going across the screen, or Lieutenant Quattro standing in front of the green. You have that incredible shot of Shirako as he comes in, and then as he pulls back, the Hyzax coming in. You have that great shot of the Mark II being completely silhouetted until it goes to move, and then it fills with color and life as the eyes light up. This is one of the best OPs in the series, in my opinion, because it does get you excited. It slowly builds to that crescendo, right? But it also firmly reminds you of what show you're watching. This is Zeta Gundam. And sometimes Zeta Gundam's rough, so it has to go triple S tier for me. This is the best OP in the series so far as we've gone through these. Next up is Double Zeta's Anime Genai. Anime Genai is such a fun OP. It has a lot of really cool symbolism in it. The slow buildup of this is the evolution of mankind leading from man to new type to stronger new type to stronger new type. The cuts of judo just like fly through space all look really cool. There's a lot of wasted time in this OP though, like the slow pan up that takes about 14 seconds to get to the top of the Zeta before the eyes light up. It looks cool, but it is a lot of wasted time in here. But the song is so fun. Judo's reactions are so cool in the trailer. You have in the OP, you have the moment of his hand turning into the Zeta's hand that looks really cool. We're going to put this in S tier, but I don't quite think it gets to double S or triple S. I think we're going to put it right above Tobe Gundam, but we'll see. Silent Voice does a better job of building up to the episode itself. However, I don't think the song is anywhere near as fun. It is like when I think about Double Zeta, I think about Anime Genai, right? Silent Voice is still a great song, and it's used in most of the games that feature Double Zeta, especially in like Super Robot Wars. But this OP, it has some really great shots. The shot of Haman in the start doesn't take too long, doesn't stay too long, but it really sells you on, hey, there's a lot going on with Haman. You get good shots of the cast and crew. You spend a good chunk of the OP transforming into the Double Zeta, and I can't decide whether that works for me or not for it to take up that much time in the OP. But we're going to put it just behind Tokiwo Koete, I think. It's a strong opening, but it's not near these three in my mind so far. Next up is War in the Pocket. Hey, so real quick, I was trying to grab the 0080 OP for this video, and I accidentally grabbed an AMV. So it's ranked in the very wrong spot right now, because I love 0080, and the AMV was really good. That's not the opening. Somebody had made their own fan opening. The actual opening is going to be covered later on the list. So when you see 0080's OP in triple S tier, please don't immediately dislike and throw a fit. Just understand that I messed up, and I fix it later. Thanks. The first Artist Memory OP is really, really solid. The intro of it, where you have Ko running towards the screen as the years slowly tick up, and then it hits 0083, and you just have that moment of, yeah, now the OP can start. It's a really good build-up. You have some great shots of Gato in here. You have good cuts to everybody else. The song's really good. Got it burning hot. It's really, really solid. I don't think it spends quite enough time with Ko or with Gato individually. I feel like we have a lot of time just with, hey, here's people fighting in the background. But there's also some really good shots of Ko fighting and Gato fighting. So all told, I think this is probably going to go top of A. It might wind up moving up S. We're moving up to S, because that running towards the screen is really, really good, and then everything else from there is solid. I think this is a great OP to start off a series that I may not personally enjoy all that much, but I'm not going to hold that against these OPs, because it's not the OP's fault. There is so much energy in Men of Destiny, all leading up to that final Men of Destiny. It's so good. The opening, instead of having Ko run towards the screen, you have different events in history as you're building up through the years to get to 83 that have led to this moment. You get an incredible action-packed OP that spends very little time going to the characters, but when it shows the characters, it's either the still image of, hey, here's the group, or it's, hey, we're going. Stuff's happening. Gato's yelling. Ko's yelling. Seema's yelling. This is a great OP, and we're going to do this right here and put it at top of S, and it may move up to triple S. We'll see how the rest of the list goes. But I very much enjoyed Men of Destiny. That's a great OP. Okay, let's talk about Stand Up to the Victory, because Stand Up to the Victory is one of those that when I think about great Gundam OPs, it's right near the top for me. So, Stand Up to the Victory, what really makes this a great OP is not how hype the song is, even though the song is really hype. It's not how good the visuals are, even though the visuals are really hype. It's how they're used together. That first 4 seconds of this OP are Uso, he's happy, everything's great, and then his happiness is torn from him, which is Victory Gundam in a nutshell, man. The entirety of this OP is happy moments that are ruined. Good, positive moments that fall apart. It's, hey, here's Shakti running, and it's all pastel, and everything's great. And then it zooms out, and that's just in Uso's mind, as all of the background around him is dark, desperately clinging to the good as it's all taken away from him. And that's also shown him when he's holding the branch with the petals on it, and the wind comes and tears them away from him. This OP is not only like visual setup for the entire series of Victory, but it also really sells you on the fact that Uso has to keep getting back up. Uso, in part of the Victory Gundam, in the core fighter, as it is transforming, and then the other parts slot in together as it literally stands up to be able to face the threats that are coming against them. This is an incredible OP, and I think has to go right here. I still think that Zeta's second OP is better, but man, is this OP great. Actually, visually wise, this one might be better. Yeah, we're going to put Stand Up to the Victory at the top right now. That could change, but I can't think of a better OP right now that sells you on this is literally the show condensed into visual and musical equivalation. That's not a word. Equivocation, to be able to just sell you on what Victory is and still hype you up for it with right at the end, as it's doing the ba-da-da-da-da, the eyes of the Victory Gundam are flashing to match to the beat. What an incredible OP. Don't Stop, Carry On has some really cool moments. Shakti's face being reflected in the eyes of the V2, the V at the end there. But mostly it is reused footage and cut together in almost the exact same way. The music is good. Don't Stop, Carry On. It's very good, but we're going to have to put it in B, because realistically, whereas it does everything that Stand Up to the Victory does, it doesn't do it in a different way, and it takes away some of the shots that make Stand Up to Victory so good, and the few shots it adds in I don't think have enough staying power on their own. The song is good. I think this is a good OP. That's what B is, a good, right? C is, hey, it could have been better, but it's got some strong points. D is, man, I'm holding on to this one strong point in here, and F is, it just didn't work for me at all. But I think Don't Stop, Carry On just has to hit good, because it doesn't really, it's a huge step down from Stand Up to Victory, and if Stand Up to Victory didn't exist, it would still, I think, just be a good, solid OP. Not quite on the upper trend, not quite on the lower trend. But I do think we need to do a little bit of this. I think we need to move this down here. And we'll continue to move things down if we need to as we go. But I want there to be a bigger gap between these. Although, no, I think Winter still stay up there, because that countdown at the start is really good. Yeah, I think we're going to keep it like this. Okay, so Flying in the Sky, right? Flying in the Sky. First off, I want to specify for anybody who's like, oh, well, Trey's going to rank these songs, these two OPs, really high, because he likes G, and because Yoshifumu Ushima just recently passed away, the singer for these OPs. And while that is unfortunate, that's not going to affect these rankings, because I think these works do stand on their own. I don't think Flying in the Sky is one of the best OPs in the entire Gundam series. It is jam full of incredible moments. Domon draws the sword, and you see the reflections of the rest of the shuffle lights in the sword. And then you have him sitting after he's cut with the sword, after Master Asia has gone, or after the Shining Gundam has flown by, and Master Asia's in the sky. You see the sword is sheathed only partly, and a water drop is on the tip of the hilt, and it comes down the edge of the blade and drops down onto the picture of Kyoji, which turns it from charred and brown to give it color on his brother's face, which is the thing that he remembers the most. You have so many wonderful moments of when the song is talking about my hand is burning bright. You get the moment where it cuts to in the cockpit, Domon pulling in for the Shining Finger, and then later on when the song says Shining Finger, The Shining Gundam turns towards it. You get incredible cuts of each of the other members of the Shuffle Alliance showing off their personalities. You get some great action. You get Domon being reclusive and alone because he feels alone in his search for Kyoji. And there you have Reigns right there with him, but he doesn't see that she's right there with him because he feels so alone. This is an incredible OP, all topped off with, it kicks off with the bell going off. You have the Shining Gundam standing on top of the turnstile at the edge there, and you have the whole thing encapsulates so much of what G Gundam is without telling you if you don't know. You see that and you go, man, this is a really cool OP. But once you know, you go, man, this is a really cool OP. Plus the song Flying in the Sky is really good. When I think about G Gundam, I think about 4 songs, and this is one of them. Flying in the Sky, I think, absolutely has to go to Triple S tier, right behind Standard of the Victory. This is an incredible OP. Visually, musically, this is great. Absolutely incredible. Trust You Forever is like 90% of an incredible OP. It has so many wonderful moments here where Domon is standing looking out at the ruin of the Shining, and he is alone, but then he looks towards the sky as the Shuffle Alliance members are all separated, but they're not truly alone, for they all live under the same sky, and they all look up at it over the course of this trailer. You get to each one that seems completely alone and then looks up and remembers they're not. You get the moment where they're all together, and you have Allenby is there, and it's so great as they're all getting together to go fight and prepare because they trust each other. They trust each other forever, right? That's the whole point. You get that incredible moment with Master Asia going through his kata, and then as he's going through it, he gets stopped by Schwartz Bruder, who blocks, and the camera cuts in close to him. This is so close to being top tier OP, and then right at the end, there's like 9 seconds of a JPEG of the God Gundam and Rain Mikamura, and it's slowly zooming in on her ring, and there's just another Rain there. And I cannot for the life of me figure out what the symbolism of that is for G Gundam. I don't know if it's supposed to be that she doesn't know what to do with herself and feels like she's been split up into a bunch, or that she's going in circles. Why the JPEG of the God Gundam? Why not just have it moving, or just the face with the eyes lit up or something? It just feels really weird. I don't know. This is a really solid OP right up until the end, and so I think we're gonna have to put it at top of A tier, I think. Trust You Forever, for clarification, is my favorite song in G Gundam. I will just be walking around the house going, I trust you forever, because I love that song. But yeah, I can't, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. That said, though, hold on, because getting hurt was never a waste. It's a lyric that's used in this song while Domon's looking at the ruins of the Shining Gundam. And okay, hear me out. What if we do this? What if we do this? Huh? I feel like some people are definitely not going to be happy about this. Double S, triple S, but man, I can't not have it in S tier. It's still such a good opening up until that final section. Okay, so for a generation of us, Wing was like the Gundam series, right? And I'm going to separate that for myself with these OPs because I do think Just Communication does so much with so little. I think Just Communication is a really, really great opening. Opening up with Hiroyui holding his hand in front of his face and looking between his fingers at this distorted, twisted world in the Wing universe. All 5 of the boys being very melancholic, almost depressed in each of their shots, with Catra maybe being the most hopeful, but also seemingly carrying a lot of baggage. Each shot of the Gundams, for the most part, up until right at the end, is them separate on their own, individual, and they're not looking up to the sky hopeful. It's them normally in the ruins of a fight they've just won, and it looks sad while the music is telling you that just communication, if we can just talk, and you have just wild beat communication, just one beat, and you have Relina there in the ruins of this city, brushing the ash off the top of a teddy bear, showing you that, hey, people did live here, and all those people are dead now. It is an incredibly sad OP, but I think it really sells you on the beginning of Wing in a really cool way. And then the song, of course, is really good. It hypes you up. I think we're going to put this in S, probably above Winner. And depending on how I feel about rhythm emotion, Just Communication may go up to triple or double S. Never had a double S before. I'm excited about this. Some people are going to be very mad about this. All right, so let's talk about rhythm emotion, because I think rhythm emotion is the better OP between the two, even though I like Just Communication as a song more. Rhythm emotion, again, has Hero in the ruins of a city. It has each of the boys separate on their own, individual, looking depressed. But what rhythm emotion also has is the Gundams are fighting, but it's not clear who they're fighting. And in fact, at one point, Wu Fei attacks, and the camera zooms towards the Sandrock as if he's attacking Ketra in a way that I find really, really compelling. Of, in their attempts to solve Operation Meteor, the boys conflicted against each other quite a bit. And it really almost feels like they're fighting each other. And then you have Hiro and Zex fighting and coming to almost a complete match. They're just as good as each other, basically. And you see the explosion as, did they self-destruct? Did they not? I think this really sells you on the feeling of it's almost hopeless, right? It's the melancholy, it's the depression that Wing kind of represents in a lot of ways. It's how do these boys work together when their goals conflict so much? And I think it's a really cool OP in that regard. I don't think it's as good as like Stand Up to the Victory or Flying in the Sky or The War in the Pocket, but I think it's definitely double S for sure. I'm going to put it right behind Tomy Gundam. Visually, I think it is just about on par with what Tomy Gundam is telling you about Amuro and everything going on there, even though I think these two visually are a little bit more compelling. This is a really solid OP. Visually, it has a full story in and of itself. It is telling the story of these soldiers that are desperately trying to fight this war. The little moments, the getting the food, being together in the tent, drinking together, celebrating birthdays, walking through the camp, all these little moments. I think this OP really sells you on, again, what 08MS team is, just like I talk about with G Gundam, just like I talk about with Victory Gundam, with Zeta Gundam, with Wing. This really sells you on what is happening in this series. And I think that the song is also really fun. I think that you get good shots of just about all the crew doing their stuff, tells you who everybody is, and it doesn't last too long. It also doesn't focus too much on the Gundams, because that's not what this series is about. And I think, which none of them are just about the Gundam, you know what I mean? This is a much more personal story. And yeah, I think it's very, very good. I think we're going to put it at top of double S. So, I went back, because I felt like I hadn't done a good job of talking about the War in the Pocket OP. And I went back and I watched it again. I watched the wrong OP. It was, in fact, an AMV that somebody had put together. I went back and pulled up an actual episode of War in the Pocket and watched, because I was like, was it really? No, that is not a triple S tier. It's not a triple S tier OP. I'm sorry, because it's just a shot of a wall. The AMV somebody made was really good, but it's just a shot of a wall the entire time. And I mean, there's shots of other stuff going on, like the tricycle and everything there. But I love the song. But, man, that's going all the way down to C. It's a pretty big drop, I know, and there will be some people that are watching this that are probably very mad that it was ever in triple S tier to begin with. But, yeah. No, I was thinking going, man, I feel like I did a very good job of defending that and its spot in triple S tier. Let me go back and watch it again. And, no. Messed up on that one. Sorry. This OP is fine. Dreams is not a bad OP. Really, it's just not a lot going on, and it's not really telling you what's going on with the series. It's mostly aimed at space, which makes sense because the shape the Earth's in X. But you get a good shot of Garrett, like on an asteroid in an asteroid field, and then you get a shot of Tifa in front of a pastel border, and you get a shot of Jamil standing in front of an asteroid field, and then like later on you do get Wits and Roy, I believe his name is, the pilot of the Leopard. But you don't really get a lot going on with them, and I don't think I think this is just kind of a fine OP. I think it's not, it does the job, right? Also, I think we're gonna go ahead and move this down to here because it is just the wall. Resolution also kind of just checks all the boxes, but it does it in a much better way, in my opinion. We actually can see the Frost Brothers for one in this. We can see the crew. We can see everybody else. There still could have been a bit more symbolism, a bit more trying to tie into the theme of the show, a bit more trying to hype you up for the show. But this is a much better OP. We're gonna put it at bottom of A tier. I think it's much better than Dreams in my opinion, but still not quite some of the rest of these. Okay, so let's talk about Turn A Turn. I am well on record saying that Turn A is my favorite Gundam series, and Turn A Turn is my favorite song in all of Gundam. But how is it as an OP? Well, let's just do. So why does it need to go up there, right? When we look at what Stand Up to the Victory and Flying in the Sky bring, what Zeta's second OP brings, why does Turn A Turn deserve to be up here with them? And it is such a great OP. From the opening shots of the Turn A's hand reaching out towards the moon, to all of the past Gundam series being thrown into the dark history and it exploding back into light again, to all of the shots of Laurent standing there and he's in his pilot suit, but in reality, his shadow is still that of the boy with the fish that's naked in the water. You have Sochie's there and he's working for her, but his heart is still dedicated to Diana Sorel, and that's why she's huge compared to him. And then she's replaced with a Turn A because that's what he uses to be able to do the mission that she sent him on originally. You have shots of other members of the team, like Harry Ord. You have, I say members of the team, but of the cast. You have Gwyn Lineford, and then you have that great shot of Laurent falling and Diana Kiel as he's torn between who he serves here. But ultimately, it is still, of course, Diana Sorel, and just, oh, this OP is so good. The music is great. You have Turn A Gundam. I love this OP so much. And again, symbolically, it just really sells you on everything Laurent does. He does for the duty that he's been given. And sometimes that duty is to the Heims, and most of the time that duty is to Diana. And it's just such a great OP in that regard. Okay. Century Color I don't think is as fun as Turn A Turn, but it does still have some great symbolism. I don't think it's packed with quite as much as Turn A Turn, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Let me know in the comment section down below. But you have the moments of Kiel and Diana going to touch and then crossing into each other. You have the hand that's reaching out that connects with the fingers of Diana, and then it turns to the Gundam's hand reaching out. You have Laurent standing in front of a beam of light that is filled with all of the previous Gundam series. Not really sure what that's supposed to reference there, unless it's just that he's built on all that came before him. But the Moonlight Butterfly gets to happen here, and it's really cool, of course, to see, just like the Double X satellite cannon before. And you have a really interesting shot as Laurent, Harry, and Kim Kingdom all like fly together, and then right at the end, Laurent turns. It's a solid OP. I don't think it's near as good as Turn A Turn, but it's a very solid OP. We're going to put it right behind Silent Voice, I think. Maybe above Silent Voice, but it's still very good. That's a good OP. I do think there's a lot of wasted time in here. Shots of characters just with their backs to the camera. But there's also, you know, the rift between Kira and Athrun, cutting to all the rest of Zaf, getting to see the crew of the Archangel. There's some good stuff in here. Then there's a lot of decent action as the different suits are flying around each other and shooting. You even get to see the Endymion doing some stuff, the Hawk of Endymion, as it were. There's some cool stuff in this OP, and the music is good. It's good at building you up. I think by far the best shot in this OP is right at the end when the Ale Strike launches, and right as the song is ending, the color comes to the Ale Strike as it flies up towards the camera. We're gonna put Invoke, I think, in. Is it better or worse than Century Color? Is Century Color gonna wind up being our like measuring stick? Because I think we're gonna put Century Color right here. Yeah, I think Invoke goes right there. I think it does. I think it does. Man, Moment has such a strong opening as a bunch of different characters are shown and none of them are looking the same way. It's such a little detail, but each of them are looking in different directions, and then Lacus Klein is the one looking up, and that's the direction that the strike flies up from in the next shot, as if the strike itself is the answer to the question they're all asking. But other than that, it just reuses a lot of Invoke's footage and scenes, including some of the stuff at the end. But it does have, I think, the better use of some of it. You still get the shots of like Kigali coming down from the top and Athrun coming up from the bottom, and then the two of them holding guns at each other. But now you have a different background to it. And you have now, instead of just a shot of here's Izak and Diarca and Nickel, you get, hey, here's each of them in front of their Gundam with their name on screen. And I don't think it's much better than Invoke, but I do think it's better than Evoke because of that. So we're going to put it right there. And I think maybe we need to do this and bring these down to, these are good OPs. Still really like Silent Voice, though. Yeah, I think we're going to do this. There's a lot to love about Believe. First off, the song kicks off right away with that shot of the freedom, and the song really like hypes you up for the episode. But visually, what I find really interesting here is we have resolution to some of our previous scenes. So before it was Maru and Mu, and now it's Ramius and Mu, and then in the back is Natarl, and then it was Ramius, Natarl, but now all three of them are together in that scene because they're all connected in that way. You have Kira with Kigali at his back, and then she turns, and now she's Princess Kigali, and there's Athrun. You have that shot of Kigali coming down from the top, and you have Athrun coming up from the bottom, but this time their guns are not aimed at each other. They're back to back, symbolizing that they're both on each other's sides. You have the cut-ins that would have been for Izak, Diarca, and Nickel before, but are now for the Raider, the Calamity, and the Forbidden. You have that incredible shot of Kira, I almost called him Shin, Kira walking away from the freedom and Athrun walking away from the justice, and they're both walking the same direction, and then later on that's paid off when they're back to back, but they're both looking forwards. So even though they may not be on the same side, they're still looking the same way. And I think it's really good, subtle storytelling in this OP. I think Believe is an S-rank OP. I may not love Seed, but I think Believe is an S-rank OP. Realize really shows us the strength of 4 OPs in a season because it pays off a lot of the visual storytelling. It's also really messy, and so I can't rank it too high because there's a lot of just cuts to stuff happening as if they just needed to fill airtime on the song when they maybe could have drug some of those shots out longer. But you have like Diarca and Izak both get to resume their previous position, though you don't see their names come up, but they just get to have their cool shot. You get a cut to the Astray team, which is pretty cool. Probably could have lingered on them instead of adding in random footage of Kira just taking out Q guys. But there's some of those moments. You have the same shot as before with Kigali, and she turns, but now you then have a shot of Athrun and Kigali's hands reaching out. You've had all 4 OPs, or up to this point, you've had Kira and Lacus and then Flay in the background. Now Flay is instead with Mu and Rao, because that's where she's tied in now and has nothing to do with Kira anymore. And now at this moment where Kira is finally free of Flay, you have, and her influence, you have Kira's hand and Lacus's hand coming up to meet each other. All of that is great. Other than that, though, man, there's so much happening in this OP. It is hard to keep up at sometimes. And so I feel like we have to put it in A, and I think we're going to put it... I do think it's better than Invoke, but I don't think it's... And it does pay off stuff from Moment, so we're going to put it above Moment. But I won't put it behind Moment. I actually think Moment's a better OP. But it's pretty solid. It's just so busy. So busy. All right, these are on the list, so we're covering them. There is setup in this OP. I don't feel like it's a good OP because while it shows me the characters, I don't feel like it really spends any time with them as characters. It's just their abilities, their attacking, their fighting. I don't know. I feel like there's not a lot of actual character in it. We're gonna put this in C tier because it's technically an opening, but it didn't really grab me at all. There's only one good, like, decent shot, in my opinion, which is when the villain is shrouded in mystery and you see the eye light up, and that's pretty solid. But other than that, it's mostly just gunshots, sword swings, flying, stuff happening, people shouting, but no real character work in this one. We'll see about the next one, maybe. Okay, look, it's been like 30 minutes since I've ranked this one. I've been trying to find the OPs. I thought, well, if I just look up the Japanese version of the show and watch the episodes in Japanese, then I can get the OP from that. I can't. They're not available in Japanese anymore. I even looked at Bilibili, thinking maybe I could find it there. I found a site that let me download episodes that were supposedly in Japanese. They're not. It's the dub. For reference, the dub uses just clips from the show while playing music. It doesn't even have an OP really. So I'm sorry. We're gonna put these in can't watch because it doesn't exist anymore. And they're both gonna go right here. But I can watch the first one at least. So you got that. What a colossal waste of time that was. I'm gonna make a lot of people mad here because I love this song. I downloaded this song and put it on my iPod way back when, my first generation iPod. But I don't think this is a very good OP. It's mostly just the logo in flames with shots of stuff happening that are kind of visible, kind of not visible because of the fire. And in that regard, I think it's better still than The Wall, but not by much. We're going to put it in D. And some people are going to be very upset with me about that, but I just don't think it works at all as an OP. So this OP also has a lot going on, kind of like Flying in the Sky. However, I think most of this OP kind of doesn't matter. 3/4 of this OP are just shit, suits flying everywhere. Here's a character, this is the suit they're in. Here's a character, this is the suit they're in. And then the last quarter of the OP is, hey, here's Shin and Stella, and they're both naked to show that, you know, they don't have anything to hide from each other, that they care about each other more than anything else. Here's Kira and Lacus in much the same way, but Kira and Lacus are presented in the light of the freedom, whereas Shin and Stella are presented in the dark. You have Kira and Shin fighting, which obviously is a reference to what's going to be happening in the series. You have Athrun and Mir and Kigali, and that shot's pretty good with the guns being pointed, but other than that, I don't think this is a very good OP for setting up what's going on. The music is really exciting. I think it does that very well, so I think we're going to put it at top of B right now. It's not bad, but it's not any of these, in my opinion. It's kind of funny that when I've watched so many Seed and Destiny openings that I can just say, yeah, this is a Seed opening. Man, Pride has one incredible shot in the middle of this OP going for it that really sets it apart. Otherwise, it uses a lot of the same footage. It has some new cool footage, but it's mostly just the same as Ignited, except for that one shot, which is Maru Ramius holding the pistol to Neo Roanoke, and you can see the panic and the fear and the complete lack of certainty in her actions, in her emotions, as that shot is framed, and it's so good. And for that shot's sake, I'm gonna put it right above Ignited, but otherwise, I do think it's roughly the same. Destiny's OP3, man, it has a bunch of new footage in the intro of Shin and Athrun back to back, but they're clearly not seeing eye to eye, and everybody is next to them naked, and that should symbolize that there's no barriers between all of them, but it really doesn't, because it really feels like all it's trying to say is, hey, they're naked, because there are a ton of barriers between all those characters, and there are some new things added into the previous footage. Maver is now there, along with Luna Maria and Mir and Kigali and Athrun's harem, and we have a couple other new shots scattered here and there. But for the most part, it's mostly reused footage. I think the song is very good. I think it's exciting, but I think that I'm going to put it just above Ignited, because it's mostly some of the same stuff, just with the neatness at the front. Well, we got like 2 more Seed Destinies to go. Let's see how it goes. This OP confuses me. So, sorry, I've just got done eating. I've been recording this for a couple of hours already. I don't understand this OP, because you have so much reused footage, but the new stuff is good. Like Durandal has a full pan and tilt now, where behind him is Talia Gladys. You have Athrun in his new uniform and Neo Roanoke in his new uniform. And then by the end of the OP, you have all the naked people again, but Shin's running towards the screen this time, and it's really active, and it feels good. And then you just have that final shot of them all in Zaft uniforms again, including Athrun. It just feels really misplaced here. I don't know. I think this is the only, and I love this song, so it hurts to do this. I think I'm going to put this in C. I think we're going to move Dreams down to C as well, just because, man, I just needed more. In fact, I think we're probably going to do this and move this right here as well, because I just needed more from this, from Wings of Words. I don't know, maybe I'm just getting C Destiny fatigue now that we're on OP5. All right, look, Vestige, look. If you took out some of the scenes from Wings of Words and added in some scenes from Bokutachi no Yukue, you have Vestige, basically. There's a couple new shots. The Destiny Gundam gets a new shot with the wings, and there's a new shot of Lacus bound by ribbons while Kira holds her and Athrun and Kigali reach for each other in front of him. And I have no idea what that's supposed to reference at this point, because Kira is with Lacus. They're together. They're on the same side. This is the final OP. This is right at the end, you know? I don't get it. And it just feels like a remixed version of all the other OPs. I'm putting it at the end because I think this is the worst one of the Destiny OPs, in my opinion. Man, am I glad to be done with Destiny OPs for now. So it's easier to see through the fire this time because the fire's blue instead of gold. But I still don't think this is a great OP. I think we're also going to do this because at least you can see what's happening here. I think it's a great song. If we were just doing off music, this would be higher up for sure. But I just don't think it's a very good OP. I don't think it does a very good job of selling you on what the series is. It doesn't really hype you up for the series. I don't know. It's very stylistic. It's very interesting. I just don't think it works, unfortunately, at least for me. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Maybe you love it. All right. Daybreak Spell is a great OP. I don't think it's quite like double S, triple S tier, but Daybreak Spell, when I think about Gundam 00, Daybreak Spell is one of the first things I think of, because this OP, right off the bat, is such a strong start. You get the music cut in, you get the shot of the Earth, and then you have Setsuna as a child soldier. Right away tells you, hey, this guy's carrying some baggage. He's on the Gundam, he's relaxed, but he used to be a child soldier. You get shortcuts of Lock On, Alleluia, and Tierra, and I think that's where this OP fails for me, is that it needed to spend a little bit more time with each of them. I needed something like that for them, the child soldier that becomes the man. I needed a cut like that somewhere in there. But, that said, I still think this is very good. I think that they did a great job with selling you on Setsuna, at least, and the setup with him and Marina Ismail, and the cuts in there. Graham Aker, the turn in the hat into the helmet, it's very good, but it just needed a little bit more to push it over the edge. I think we're going to put this in A, right behind Century Color, I think, but it's still very, very good. Where Daybreak Spell might have faltered a little bit as an OP, Ash Like Snow does not. Ash Like Snow, Setsuna in the ruins, Lock On in a car in a busy neighborhood, looking at the children running by, his lost childhood and his lost family there. Alleluia, they're not physically on screen, but you can tell that's what he's thinking about. Alleluia and Hallelujah standing behind him, and Tierra connected to Veda. You have Graham Aker in a flag with a grin. You have some Pyrrhus, stoic, solid, firm. You have Saji and Luis playing around, having a good time. You have an uncertain Sumeragi Lee Noriega. You have Ali Al-Sanchez just having a blast. You have the cut to the thrones, and they don't show you pilots. And then you even get to see the bits of the GNXs, even though you won't know what those are and what they're fighting, as you also get to see each of them fighting their enemy, as it were. You get to see Alleluia going against Soma Pires. You get to see Lock On keeping Graham Aker busy so that Setsuna can fight Ali Al-Sanchez. And unfortunately, you don't really get to see Tieria fight anybody. He just kind of shoots at stuff. But I think this is a really, really strong opening. Great song. It all flows really well together. There's some great shots of the Exia with like the eye glowing there around all of it. But it's just a very solid OP that I think hypes you up for the episode, tells you what's going on and where the characters are without giving too much away, I think. Also, it's all fun to see Ali Al-Sanchez just having a great time. Put this in double S tier. I think we're going to put it above Men of Destiny, but behind Arashi no Nakata Kagiaite. It's a very, very good OP. Okay, so again, I looked, and I found the show, and I was able to watch an episode of the show, and from that, I was able to watch what I'm assuming was the OP, which was nothing, but they had a cool ED, so I'm going to call this the ED, say that it's pretty solid. The Brave Legend is a cool song, and getting to see all the characters having a good time and playing around was fun. But I don't think it's an OP. It did very well, because it wasn't an OP, and I don't think even if it was the OP, it would have done very well at the OP. So we're going to put it right here at the, we're going to put it at D. We're going to put it at D. I'm sorry. I don't think it was a very good OP, even if it was the OP, but it was the ED. I'm sorry. And again, for anybody who's like, well, why did you use this list if it had these on here? Because this list had the names, and that made it so much easier. So even though it had some things that, and there's, like, these coming up, I know these are great. We're going to get there. We're going to get there eventually. This is a good OP. I don't think it's, man, it's weird because I think this OP it does everything I want it to do, right? It does quick cuts to backgrounds for characters. I think we could have spent a little bit more time on that. It does, hey, here's where everybody else is at. Here's shots of everyone. You have a great shot of Saji looking up at the sky, and like the shadow of Louise is there, and then you cut to Louise in the Alo's base. All that is great. You have each of the characters being unsure. You have Hallelujah falling apart while reaching towards someone Pires. You have a great shot of Setsuna reaching for Marina Ismail, and as he's reaching for her, the hand turns back into the Double O's hand so that it can fight off an enemy that's coming at him. There's a lot to love in there, but there's also just like a bunch of fighting that doesn't really have a lot of stakes, except for the fight between I just completely forgot his name. I almost called him Alejandro Corner. I'm so sorry. Hold on. Ali Al-Sanchez. I somehow forgot his name completely. Ali Al-Sanchez and Tieria. Other than that, it's kind of just a lot of fighting. You get a shot of Mr. Bushido in there, but we don't really spend much time with him. And there are other villains that kind of just stand in the background for most of it. There's a lot to love in this one, but I do think it unfortunately drops the ball in a couple of regards. I think we're going to put it at bottom of A right now, behind Silent Voice. For everything that I think the previous OP lets me down on, the fourth OP for Gundam 00 pulls me back up on. The symbolism in this is so good. You have Setsuna in the desert, and he's walking forward. He's left his goggles behind because he's trying to leave his past behind him. But there's the flower that represents Marina Ismail, and as he reaches for it, the petals fly away because they're just out of his reach. You have Lock On. He goes to leave the cemetery to go walk back out in society, but turns back again because he just can't let go of his revenge. You have Alleluia falling apart and reaching for Soma Pires, but just not able to get through to her. And you have Tieria fighting off Veda and everything going on there. This trailer gives us more of the Innovates fighting around. We get to see Louise and Saji. We get to see Mr. Bushido clashing with Setsuna again as Tieria fights Ali Al-Sanchez. We get to see the different Innovators attacking, and we get to see them fighting them off. And there's so much good going on here, all to compile to the end here in the finale of this OP of Setsuna's hand reaching out and the other hand reaching back, and you don't know whose it is. It doesn't show whose it is. So it's free for you to fill in the blanks. Is it Marina Ismail? Is it Felt? Is it Sumeragi? Is it Lock On? Who is it that he's reaching out to? Obviously, the common is Marina, but it could also be who he wants to be. And then you have the four Meisters walking away from each other as their four paths are branching out. They still want peace, but they want it for different reasons, and they want it different ways. And it really encapsulates Season 2 of 00 for me. I think this is a great OP. and goes all the way to the top of double S, and it's really close to bumping into triple S. I think we might do this because I think all of these OPs are great, but I don't want triple S to be too full, though. I want it to be special, you know? We're going to move these back down to double S, but this might... We're going to do it. We're going to do it. People are going to be mad at me about that, but we're going to do it. People are going to be even more mad when we get through Gundam Age. All right. People aren't going to like this. People aren't going to like this at all, but I'm going to put Asue in triple S tier. Asue is such a special opening to me because it tells the story of the first part of Gundam Age in the OP, just as it is. You have hopeful Flit, who is looking forward to everything's great, everything's wonderful, and I'm making a Gundam, and everything's great. And he's running with his friends, and he's smiling. And then you start the transition of the Age 1 launches, and the next thing that you really get to see is Grudak, and you get to see the ship, and then you see Flit walking away into a forest, and you don't get to see his face as you see flashes of the terrible things that are happening to him. And then you come back from all that to the next time you get to see his face is when he's turned to face the camera, and all his hope is gone, and instead it's replaced with determination. And he launches again, and you get the different shots of, hey, here's our other characters, here's everybody else, and some of them are happy and having a good time, but Flit is not. And I think not only is the song super great, super hypes you up, super catchy, I love Asue, but I think also you get that feeling of, hey, this young child has been pushed into something terrible. And I love how the Vegans are shown with dark purples and dark blacks to be able to show that, you know, hey, they're mysterious and we don't know what's going on there. But then everybody else is in these hopeful colors, except for Flit, who even right at the end, as the Earth is there and he's running towards it, you also get the cut of the happy him running the other way, showing what could have been if not for the terrible tragedies that occurred to him. And I just think it's really good, man. It's really good. And I understand why you might not agree. I know a lot of people think that I'm just the Age fan over here, but I think there's something about, you know, hey, we're cutting away from the good times to now it's time to go fight this existential force as we talk about the days of tomorrow. I don't know, it gets me, man. It gets me. Starp is an interesting one to rank because it's kind of funny. The OP makes it seem at first like it's Asumu talking to his wife, but instead the song is clearly about him to Zahart. And you get some really good stuff with them in this. But other than that, it's just kind of a lot of, hey, you know, here's what's come before, here's what's coming. Here's new people you haven't met yet, here they are. In a way that I kind of feel like a second OP probably shouldn't be doing, you know? And I get why, it's because of the generational aspect of Age. But I think that this OP has a really strong start, and then just kind of stuff happens, you know? The song's good, it's solid, there's some good foreshadowing, but I don't really have a lot of symbolism to talk about or a lot of stuff to bring up about the way shots are used, because other than that shot of Asumu and Zahart walking away from each other, it's really just Asumu and Zahart fighting later on, and that's kind of about it. But it's a solid OP. It's not bad at all. I think we'll put it behind Season 2 of 00. I don't know, though. Maybe it goes before. We might do this. Man, these next two are something. I know I said that this next one was something, and I meant it. A long time ago, I'd actually planned on doing a series on Gundam OPs where I break them down and go over the symbolism in them. And this one doesn't make sense. So this OP is about Kyo's time, right? It's the third generation. But Kyo's barely in it, and the times that he is in it, he's portrayed very dark with dark reds and in his suit and launching or booting up the H3, and he's all determined and angry looking. And that's not Kyo. It's not who he is. And I don't like Kyo as a character. I want to specify that. I do not enjoy Kyo as a character, but I know Kyo as a character. And then you kind of don't see him again until later on he's fighting, and he's got that determined look on his face. And Kyo very much is somebody that doesn't want to fight, So it's really weird. The OP also pushes this narrative that Kyo and Zehart have a fight together and are against each other, and yeah, they're on opposite sides, but Kyo has nothing against Zehart, so why portray them like this? A lot of this OP is spent showing off the H3 and its forms, and there's almost no Kyo in it at all. It just kind of feels like a commercial, and so I'm gonna have to put it in C tier. I think it's better than the SD Gundam Force, but not by much. Not by much, in my opinion. This one has its problems, but I think it's a much better OP than Real. The main reason being that Kyo's actually in it. There's a great shot here of Kyo like looking at pictures of his dad and grandpa, and then the joyous, happy "we children, we had a future once" versions of Flit and Asumu urging him on. There's work to be done, but you don't have to give up who you were to do it. While then we get to see Kyo later on running, and we see adult Asumu and old man Flit, and he goes around them. He doesn't choose Asumu's uncertainty or Flit's anger. He instead chooses his own path. And in that regard, I think it's a great OP. Where I think it falls apart for me is that we then get a lot of shots of the FX, and we don't get anything really for the rest of the crew. Where shots of Sarek Abyss, we just get like them all in a line, and that's it. And then right at the end, we have Old Man Flit and Asumu with Kyo and their suits. Even in Real, we got a shot of like Old Man Flit looking out the window up at the stars, like that's where his enemy is, you know? But they're just kind of not here for most of the trailer or OP, and there's just no of any of the rest of the crew at all, really. There's a lot of good symbolism in here. I can't put it anywhere near as low. I'm going to put it in B tier, above Pride, I think, because the symbolism is very good, and the song's very good. I don't think it really... There's so much missing for what makes these great in these last two age OPs, in my opinion. Nibun no Ichi is a really, really solid OP. You get the shot of the build strike, and from the distance, it looks like, hey, regular Gundam series, and then it pans back a little bit, and you have Sei's hand come in, grab the build strike, and you remember, oh, right, this is Build Fighters. You have the great shot of the two of them together with Reiji putting his hand on his shoulder and patting him on the back, immediately telling you these are comrades, you know, these are friends. You have Sei working at the model and building it, looking out the window, and then you have Reiji alone before he becomes hopeful again and stands up because he's not actually alone anymore. You have the great shot of each of the various like main characters that's going to show up while the music is really hitting its peak to show off them and their suits. And then you have the rivalry of the Build Strike versus the Zaku Amazing. And you have the great shot of Sei holding out his hand with the Build Strike in the middle of it. And then Reiji reaches in and takes the hand. And with the Build Strike together, because the two of them work together, they're able to become one to fight. And it's just a really, really solid OP. I want to give a special shout out to right at the end. There's a shot that has the OG, like, old man Grandpa Gundam, the RX-78-2, and you're positive that's Amuro, right? From the way the shot is framed. It's not. It's just Sei's dad. And I think that's such a cool fake out because it didn't tell me to expect Amuro. Why would I? But then 2 shots later is Ramba Raw. And it just is like, in hindsight, you go, well, of course I would have expected Amuro. But I really think that's a great touch. This is a really good OP. I'm going to put it behind Men of Destiny, I think. Right above Anime Genai. I think First Gundam's OP needs to go higher. I think we need to put it like right here. Because it's still very, very good. Tomei Gundam. It's very, very good. There's a lot to love in this one, too. I think the big takeaways for me are in the first half of the OP. The back half of the OP is a lot of action, flashing lights, and it looks great. And as the music's pumping, it gets you excited, right? But there's not a lot of symbolism in the back half of the OP. There's a really good shot of one of the villains with the chains the fence behind him and all the mobile suits behind it, showing that even though he's in control, there is a level of distance there. He's not directly in control. Then you get, of course, the shots of Tatsuya and Ayla, and those all look very good. But for me, it's the first half of this OP. You have Reiji and Sei just passed out from having worked together. In the first OP, it was Sei building the models, but now they're working together to build the models, and it's a really nice touch. Then you get a cut of each of their friends that lost so they could get to where they are. So you have some of them are building and having fun, like Mao, but then you have like Fellini that is standing out in the field of shooting stars as they're falling because, you know, he lost, but he's still resolute because there is still a chance to come back. And I think there's a lot of really nice touches like that over the course of this. I just think that back half is kind of a little busy. Maybe they could have crammed a little bit more. Not crammed because it's already busy enough, but put a little bit more, slowed some things down a little bit to get some more room for characters in there. But I do think that shot of Reiji rising up and Sei rising up behind him is really good. And that shot of Tatsuya as he pulls his hair back and gets ready to go out there is very, very nice. I think this is a really solid opening. I don't think it's quite as good as the previous one, but I do think it's really solid. I think we're going to put it at the bottom of S tier. That shot of Fellini is really strong. There's a lot of emotion in it. Man, this OP like starts so strong, and then I feel like kind of peters out towards the end. But you have the great shot of Sekai looking out on the cliff face, and there's Domo Kashu as he turns to look at him, and you have Yuma and Fumino as they go back through their past, laughing together, wanting to win a tournament, and then you see each of them building their own suits. Yuma's first version of the Lightning, and then the GM Cardigan, which is such a great suit, and man, I love the GM Cardigan. Then over the course of the trailer, you get to see each of them fighting, and in that you see their weakness. You see something they're struggling with. You see Yuma and his struggles with Minato Sakai. You see Fumina and the fact that her cardigan's kind of falling behind. You see Sekai and the many rivals that he has. You also get to see Gyanko. You get some really nice touches of characters here and there. Even though I think this isn't an incredible OP comparatively, I do think it starts off really strong. And then there's just a lot of fighting after that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's good for hyping things up. But, you know, it's not necessarily fighting of like, hey, we're taking on specific people that are very important for our character. I do think there are nice shots of other characters as well as we go through it. But it's solid. This is a solid one. I think we put this above Sharp. It's pretty good. Maybe even put it above Invoke. It's pretty good. Man, if I could get a mix of the previous OP and this one, it would be just about perfect. This OP starts a lot of action, but they're fighting against their rivals, and we get a lot of time spent on those clashes with their rivals over the course of this OP. We have Yuma, and he's fighting his rival, and not just Minato Sakai, but we have different rivals. We have shots of the enemy teams, and they're doing stuff together. It's all about teamwork in this trailer. In a way, the other one was kind of them separate. This trailer is them together. We just don't get a lot on them individually as characters. It's mostly just the thing they're struggling, or the person they're struggling against. But it's a really solid OP in that way. The music's good. The action's good. It's teamwork, and that's what it's built around. If I could get a mix of the two, it would be perfect. I think this is the better one of the two. And I think we're going to put above Realize. But I don't think it gets to Tokyo Koete still. I think this is where we're at right now. And we may wind up having to move some places up to be able to get through here. But let's move on now to G-Reco, as the end is finally in sight to this incredibly long video. What a strange thing to have to quantify here, that G-Reco's OP is one of the best songs in the list, but Bell Rhythm isn't really in this OP, and it spends a lot of time focused on Aina, and I don't feel like it does a great job of telling me anything about her. The only shot that really does very good is the shot of her and the other girls in a line, and they're all smiling and happy, and then the next shot is her in dark purples, contrasting what just happened there, where she's covering up her pain. But that's kind of it. Other than that, we just have stuff happening, and Bellry's launching and stuff, but I don't feel like it's very good OP. I think we're going to have to put it down here in C tier. I think it's about the same problem that Age Real has, you know? Maybe the other G-Reco OP's better. I didn't remember. The G-Reco EDs are great, but okay. The second G-Reco OP is just a bunch of shots from the show taken out of context. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Like, I look at these, and then I have this. The song is great. The song is great. Let's move on to IBO, man. All right, now I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like Iron Blood Orphans, and I get that. There's a very vocal group of people on Twitter that hate it. However, Raise Your Flag is one of the best OPs in Gundam, and I'm going to tell you why. And you may not like this. You may want to fight back against it. It's okay. Just as I separated my dislike of Stardust Memory, talk about how good those OPs are, I hope you can do the same thing for IBO if you dislike it. Because IBO Raise Your Flag is an incredible OP. You could show this to somebody that had never seen the show before, and they automatically get from this OP that this is a show with a heavy atmosphere. That you have the sepia tone to start off with, and then as we hit the beat of Raise Your Flag, the boot comes down, and what looked like water in the alley was actually blood. You have the cut to the Gundam and everything happening there. You have Orga and Mikazuki as they hit arms. I just hit the mic to each other. Because they may not be looking at each other, but they're on the same side. They're working together. And of course, we know, see the show, how that relationship works, but you get a better understanding of that later in the trailer as well. You get a cut to all these different shots of the crew of Tekkadan. You get a good look at a lot of the characters you're going to meet. You even get to see that things aren't fair, as this guy that looks a little bit like Guts has been punched and knocked to the ground. You get Mikazuki walking back up to everybody, proving that, you know, he is really the driving force, even though he's not the one that gives the orders. You have cuts to Cadelia and Atra, of course. You have an incredible cut to Ein, who is holding a medal, and Lieutenant Crank in front of him. And of course, those who've seen the show know what the point is there. You get a nice cut of McGillis and Gaileo, and then you get the incredible moment later on in the trailer. I keep calling them trailers in the OP, where McGillis holds up the knife, and you see the reflection of his father. You get a nice shot of some of the other forces acting around. You get some good action. Meanwhile, the song is definitely amping you up, and you get my favorite shot of the trailer right at the end of the OP. I keep doing that because I normally talk about trailers like this. Right at the end, where Orga and Mikazuki are in that field, corn, and then it cuts to them as adults standing in the exact same way as a rocket is taking off into space, which is, of course, their future. So this is a top tier OP, in my opinion, one of the best in all of Gundam. Could very well fight to be up in the slot up here. We are going to rank all of these as we go, once we get to the end. But it's absolutely an incredible OP. And I think it's one of the reasons the show did as well as it did when it first came out. Because Raise Your Flag is just so good that it had people hyped for the episode every week. On the contrary, Survivor is just fine. I think it does the job okay. You get some pretty nice cuts here. Orga giving the order, and then Mikazuki launching. Even though you don't see that it's Orga, you know by the fact that Mikazuki's launching, it's Orga. You get to see a couple of nice moments here where, like, Cordelia's looking down, and she got her hands grasped together. There's not much that she can do. She's praying that everything works out. And then by the end of the OP, you know, she's seen somebody moving to her left, and so she's turning and running to them. You get some decent shots of the other characters that are around. A lot of people just yelling. A lot of time spent on getting into Gundams. I don't think it has quite the punch by far that Raise Your Flag has. It's a solid OP. It's not bad, but it's just not as good, in my opinion, anywhere close as Raise Your Flag. So Into the Sky is a really weird OP to talk about, because Into the Sky has just about every character in Unicorn shown. And it's as they slowly, like, come towards the screen in this cool, like, space background of, like, everything's nebulous. Haha, see what I did there? But it also is one of the best edited AMVs I think I've ever seen. The song is great. Into the Sky is an incredible song. And the action is really well edited. It's really well cut together, because it's from a bunch of different fights throughout the entire series. It's really well done. But for me, what really hammers home this trailer is that final shot as the music is kicking out after you've heard the da 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 da, which is beautiful and gorgeous. It's all the lights that are supposed to represent the souls, all the different new types, right, coming together to form a line. Because eventually they will all be able to understand each other. It is the beast of possibility that Unicorn is built around. And I think even though most of this trailer is combat, I think this is a great OP. I really do. It's really well edited. It hypes you up, and I think it still sells you on that core theme of Unicorn without even really telling you who Banagher is, in a way that I think is really, really cool and interesting. I had never seen this OP before starting this video, and this is an incredibly stylistic, beautiful OP that takes the time to show the characters, and each of them gets a couple different frames of them in different poses, which are different parts of their life. You get to see Banagher with blood on his face, and then there is a whole section of this OP that is dedicated to the wrecked mobile suits, the cost of the war, and Banagher's push forward to try and understand the fight that he has against Full Frontal and all those that continue to perpetuate war. Meanwhile, the effects are beautiful. The song is great. This is an incredible trailer that I think needs to go straight to Triple S tier. And I think, honestly, it has to be pretty high up there. This is a dead good OP. You play this for somebody, and they're going to be interested in Unicorn, though it'll probably spoil too much, so don't play it for them yet. But that is great. That is an incredible OP. Rage Dust is a pretty solid OP. There's a lot to love in there. A lot of good action. And then, of course, the shots of Vidar grabbing his mask. The shots of Mika crawling across the ground, trying to get close to the Barbados. Mika holding up his hand, and it becoming the Barbados hand, then the Frame's hand, then his hand again, as they're becoming more of one and the same. Some decent shots of characters around. Rustal Elian standing up, looking all proud, and then Yok Kajan raising up into his seat, you know. Some good stuff there. I don't think it, again, stands quite as high as Raise Your Flag does. I think that is a seminal OP in many ways. But it's pretty good. I think we'll put it in S tier. Above Believe, but behind Trust You Forever. Fighter's pretty solid. I think it's probably the worst of the IBO OPs, in my opinion. There's some really good character stuff early on with Orga having to lift up Mika because he can't walk anymore. And then there's a pretty decent shot later on of Mika looking up after a slow zoom, and you can see the Tekkadan in his eyes, right? The flower that they're reaching for. But other than that, it's mostly action. It's well-edited action, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot at stake in the action. It's just a lot of action going on. And it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think we'll put it behind Don't Stop, Carry On. But it's not, it doesn't hold up to like Survivor and Raise Your Flag for sure. Now, I should specify at the point, I have not yet seen Build Divers or Re-Rise. So I don't know anything really about these characters, and I'm relying on OPs to show me who these characters are. This is a solid OP. Divers Highs, it's pretty good. I feel like I got a pretty good understanding of the main character based on this. But everybody got time to shine. The song was good. I didn't get a lot of emotion from most of the characters. It was mostly just, you know, hey, here's cool stuff happening, which is fine. It was absolutely serviceable. We'll put it behind Fighter, I think, in that it is absolutely serviceable. It does nothing wrong whatsoever. It didn't really sell me on the series. Let's see how next OP does. There's a lot going on in this OP. At one point, SDs combined? Man, I don't know. I think it's good. It's good. I think it did a good job of making me interested. I got to see a little bit more of the characters. I may not know any of their names, but the character in the hat that looks down at one point, and then looks back up, and there's this giant suit in front of him. That could be a lot of different things. It has me definitely interested. Obviously, I'm going to miss the symbolism here because I haven't seen the show, but let me know if you have symbolism to share on these in the comment section down below. But I think this was a really solid OP. I think I'm putting it above the Gundam X OPs. I think it does a better job of selling me on what's going on here. Looks like a lot of people having fun, but also some serious stuff going on. with some really cool looking suits, some really nice touches, such as the Kapul having to be like carried through the sky because it can't fly. A lot of really nice stuff like that in there, and I'm interested now. Honestly, there's that got me a lot better than the last one did. This is a dang good OP. I love the layered effects. There's a lot of storytelling going on in this OP. If you don't know the story, a lot of serious stuff is happening, and it's going to obviously make you want to know more. But most of this OP is focused on the characters, and so if you do know the story, then of course you're immediately hooked. Of hey, there's Cassilia, there's Girin, there's Dozel, and I think it does a really good job of selling you on how Char is feeling in all those situations, because that's the whole point of Origin, right? I think this is a dang good OP and deserves to go up at double S. For sure. Sora no Uta is very, very good. It would be really easy to say that Hisobi is just a lot of shots from Origin, and that's why it's good, because Origin's good, right? But it's not just those shots. It's them layered to the music. It feels like they made an AMV, honestly. It's the shots with the film grain, with the film track pulling, with the flashes of dark behind them or red behind them as the rest of the screen goes dark. It really, really sells that OP on you. And again, this one's got to go up in double S, and I think it might go up to triple S. We're going to see how the third one goes, because if I like it even more, it's going up to triple S. No, yeah, the lyrical version of Beyond Time and the way that all looks is for sure triple S tier. Using a film grain to make it look like 0079 again is incredible. Man, that was great. And then just the cuts to all the characters, it's top tier. Not a lot of action, but there doesn't need to be. The focus on Sayla at the start of it and her tears as she's having to defend herself. You feel it. It's great. That is a dang good OP. Loving that. That's triple S tier. Okay, the Seketsuden OP is pretty good. I have not seen Seketsuden or World Heroes, but I have read Romance of Three Kingdoms. So I recognize who these characters are, and I get what they're going for. It's not bad at all. It's mostly a lot of action with a couple good character moments with Liu Bei and Zhang Fei and Guan Yu, right? Which is pretty solid, but it didn't really make me want to go and watch the show. Like, it's cool stuff. I don't think it was a very good OP to hype me up for it. The song is good, and there's some cool stuff happening. Lu Bu as the Sazabi is pretty dang cool. And they're all on motorcycles, and that's fun. But for me, it does the job, right? It's not as bad as these two. I think I'm going to put it behind Age is Real. Yeah. Some people are going to be really mad about that. Okay, so Re-Rise has a dragon, a knight, and a superhero? It was fine, OP. Again, I haven't seen Re-Rise, so I don't know any references that are in there or any symbolism, but it was a fine OP. It looked interesting. It made me genuinely curious about Re-Rise. So I think it's not bad. I don't necessarily think that it was super great either. I'm guessing the main character is the guy in the dark hair, but I couldn't tell you for sure because we didn't spend much time on him at all. So I think I'm going to put it right here. Yeah, I think we're going to do this. Let's see about the other Re-Rise OP. The song is pretty cool on this one, and I did get at least a shot of the team, but I don't really feel like I know anything about them. So in that way, I feel like it didn't do what I wanted it to do. I think it's better than the previous one. But not as good as some of the other ones. So it's cool, and the song was great, but I want to know these characters, and these do that, and these don't, in my opinion. On to World Heroes! So this first one was pretty good. I didn't expect when it said World Heroes for it to literally be heroes from all across the world, because I guess I'm kind of used to the SD Gundam, the Sengoku style, where they're all three heroes characters, or three characters. Yeah, pirates and Egyptian princesses and a king with a haro on his lap instead of a cat. That's cool. It clearly was showing off a lot of different characters, right? I may not know those characters, but it clearly was showing off all the different cast of characters. There were some cool power-up scenes. The music was pretty good. It didn't really tell me much about any of the characters, but it's also kind of hard to convey emotion through the characters when they don't have much expression they can do. So I'll give it a pass because it was trying. There were little moments of characters like sitting down all alone. So we'll put it in B because it was good, but I think these did a better job of what they were trying to do, you know? Okay, so you might think I'm crazy, but I think this one was actually really good. Uh, there's obvious character work here. A character that I'm assuming is Sun Wukong because we're looking at heroes from all across the world, and he has a tail and rides around on the Nimbus. Is clearly dejected, and a character that I'm assuming is Liu Bei because he looks like Liu Bei. Comes to his aid and reminds him that they're not alone and points to all the others. The music is okay, not really my style, but I dig it. At one point, I'm pretty sure a character is riding around on top of the Absolus that is using tentacle legs to move, and I don't know why, because the Absolus can fly and has legs. But there's a shot at the end of this where Liu Bei is looking to the distance where Wukong is, and then Wukong vanishes, and Liu Bei looks a little sad. And so there's obvious character work going in here. It got me kind of interested. I want to know what's going on with Sun Wukong. So I think we're going to put it right here, and there are going to be some people that are very mad about that. So the comments on this are going to be great for years. So they've also included Hathaway's Flash's Morbius, which is the opening to Hathaway's Flash. It's not really an opening like the others, right? But it is still the opening to the movie, and it's pretty solid as an opening to the movie. I don't think it's really great as an opening, but it's mainly focused on Hathaway's regrets and the fight between between Amuro and Quest in Char's Counterattack. And it's really focused on that. And the music is good, it's solid, but it's not really an OP, so I don't really want to include it in the rest here. But if I was ranking it as an OP, it would be in probably D. So we're going to put it at the bottom of C. Although I think it's probably better than, if you know the story at least, it has character in it if you know the story, but if you don't, you know. But yeah, we're gonna do this. So let's go through the tiers here. Let's go from the bottom. This is where it deserves to be. I think these are probably about right too, right? The fire effects, and this is not even really an OP. Yeah. I don't think I'd really change any in C. I think this is pretty good. It's pretty solid. B, would we move anything up? I think B is pretty good too, although people are going to be really mad about this being above Destiny's Pride. A is where I might do some moving. Because like Century Color and Daybreak's Bell are right there at the top, but I feel like Silent Voice might need to move up a little. Dead voice. But Invoke's really good. Like these are all really solid. Yeah, I think we're going to leave this the way it is. But in S, what are we doing here? Just Communication, Rage of Dust, Trust Forever. Honestly, I feel like S is pretty good too. And double S. Does anything need to move up to triple S, or does anything need to move down from triple S? I think there's a lot in triple S, but I think those deserve being there. These are very good. Maybe we move Rhythm Emotion above Anime Janai. And I think we move both these, the Origin ones, above. Sobi's very good, though. I think maybe we do this. Honestly, I think that's where I'm going to go with that. And then in triple S, man, what's going to top of triple S out of these? These three I thought were going to be unshakable from an early lead here. But Re-I-Am is very good. I think we need to do this. Your flag can go up here. And Beyond the Time, I think can probably go right here too. And we'll do it in that 5. This is, I don't know, the Raise Your Flag should probably be top 5. Raise Your Flag over Flying in the Sky. Flying in the Sky is so good. Honestly thinking this. I think we're gonna do this. I think this is how we're gonna fall. We're gonna go turn a turn, I am, stand up to the victory, beyond the time, flying in the sky, raise your flag. I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do that as the top 6, and then of course, we have Zeta's second OP. We have Double's season 2 second OP, and then Asue. And people are gonna be mad at me about a lot of these placements, but I've been recording for the last 4 hours, so this is what we're gonna call it right here. If you have any comments, if you want to have anything moved to other spots, for your own list, if you want to move things like that, let me know in the comment section down below. Tell me where you would have ranked these. Tell me how wrong I am, because I know that you will for years to come. But either way, I love doing these, and I hope that you enjoyed watching me do it. Until next time, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum the Gundam has to offer.